Good evening, Peggy McCartha, and welcome to Chatbox with Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great
And
seeing you.
it's great to see you again too, also. And I know you're an amazing actor, and you're an engineer, and I think your mother Beverly inspired you to pursue an acting career. Am I right?
Wow, you did read my bio.
Well, mothers are important, and I wanted to get her name right. So I'm
Yes,
sorry. I'm sorry you lost your mother, but what an inspiration she was for you. I think.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to start off with that. So Merrick, if you were to inspire the younger generation, what would be your main focus?
Wow, to inspire the younger generation, I think it is always um, be open-minded and available to things that can be yours in your life. I think a lot of times we are raised with a sense of limitation, and we let that sidetrack us and hinder us in our pursuits and our decisions. And I would certainly say um, break through limitations when you can. Never try to put yourself in this box of limitation for when it comes to what you want to achieve in your life.
That's awesome. So, in the industry, because I know your mother encouraged you, what advice would you give the younger generation on how to pursue this career in the industry?
Sure. I think I always say, there's so many great and wonderful acting classes. There are so many ways for you to get some experience to build up a resume, student films, indie projects, things like that. But I think a lot of people miss the really strong importance of learning the business, really understanding how the business works in acting. And it will save you a lot of heartache. It'll help prepare you. It'll help you be more able to persevere, understand the business, really work on learning as much about the business as you can.
And what is it that you think your mother saw that encouraged you yourself?
Uh, I mean, sure, aside from a mother's love of their child, thinking they could do anything, I suspect that she saw me happy doing something. She saw happiness in me doing something that she didn't really see a happiness in me doing other things.
Oh,
Um, my pursuit as an engineer was from a working class environment where I was raised to go to college, get a job, and the most lucrative job that you can get that you might like to do and that you're skilled at, and and pursue that. And it wasn't more of what you're passionate about; it was more of what's going to provide for you and your family.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so having something like acting, which is very not unstable, I would say more inconsistent, uncertain,
Right.
is not not a value that I was raised to have when pursuing a career. It was all about having a steady paycheck. So,
You know what? I can relate. It's all about having a steady paycheck, and I understand that absolutely.
yeah.
So, apart from the engineering, what's your R&R go to? What relaxes you, and what hobbies makes you step out of being the actor, of being the father, the husband? What's for you your main hobbies that you like that brings some light to your soul?
Um, I, I mean, there are a lot of little things that I help me. I certainly do have a practice of meditation daily, multiple times a day, sense of gratitude for my life, and
Yes.
always looking to pursue things that uh, I have deep questions about or deep feelings about. Um, it could be learning new things altogether,
Mm-hmm.
learning different languages. In college I learned to speak Russian
Oh wow.
for different reasons, uh, but also just this idea of learning, exploring life, the world, other people, this communal sense, and also growth within yourself and really understanding yourself and how you can be fulfilled as an individual.
That's amazing. I know Tina Turner studied Buddha and meditation to help
Mm-hmm.
her. Yes, great quotes too. Well, thank
Yes.
you very much for sharing that. I say I don't ask personal questions, but I guess that's kind of personal.
It's a little personal, Sam.
Strike that off the list. Strike it off the list.
That's all
Sometimes
right.
she gets personal, but it's okay. It's not
Yes.
too bad. Children can still watch this. Well, your first film was in a short film in 2010, and you got an award in 2014.
Just a Man, and it was a short film for a film competition, and the story was about the immediate aftermath of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. So it was me as the sort of valet of Abraham Lincoln, consoling Mary Todd Lincoln and the doctors coming in. It was it was a dramatic short film for a short
Yes.
film competition that did well. The Fatal Air, or the AKA the Air is Lethal,
Yes, that was
where it was also a short film with the same production group. It was for, I think, the same competition, but this was a film noir comedy. So it was me as this, detective,
yes.
uh, uh, Sam Spade type of guy. It was one of those film noir.
And that's amalgamated
detective.
grommets. Amalgamated grommets.
The amalgamated dramas, yes.
Yes.
So it was the film noir detective, and the femme fatale walked into his office, and there was this funny story that develops, and it was also an award-winning film. They went to Cannes Film Festival, actually.
Yes, it did go to the Cannes film, and that was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it was made in 2010. I was speaking to my producer, and we said, "How come so long?" And yet it took 4 years. But then they saw you in your light, and you got an award at the Cannes Film Festival in France. That's a nice place to go to. So you're making a film right now, senior year, with Rebel Wilson.
Yes, the film is pretty much wrapped. I just did my last ADR for the film last week, and this is a story about a traumatic event that happens in high school, and years later, the character Rebel Wilson is trying to reconcile with that event. So it's a comedy with Rebel Wilson,
She's
Josh.
funny.
Yes, Josh Hartley, and several other people there.
Yes.
And it was a great shoot to work on. We shot that in the Atlanta area, and it was really fun. Really fun.
Yes, and then she loses her memory and then comes back to the school, right?
Yeah, I was trying not to give stuff away. I don't know what I can say or not. You're fine. Yeah, I think that's in the press. Yes, if it's in public, you're welcome to say it. So that's fine.
It's actually on the IMDb.
Yes.
Because I know you're contracted and we're not going to get into trouble here.
Right.
Absolutely. So how do you feel about the self-tapes now, rather than going into the office with the auditions?
Right. As of a couple years ago, I mean, there was always the opportunity to do self-tapes before. And interestingly enough, doing the self-tape usually was reserved for if you're already working on something and you really couldn't come in, you were out of town for whatever reason, and unless you were a big name actor, that self-tape tended to lessen your chances of booking the role, because casting directors really had a fondness for having you in person, getting a sense of your presence, who you are in the room, and just connecting with you on a personal level. But all that's changed now, because since we've been dealing with a worldwide pandemic, the self-tape has dramatically risen to prominence, and it is now an order of business for casting people to have you do a self-tape first. Depending on the size of the role, that may be all you need. If it's a bigger role, then they may have a live Zoom audition with you, or they may, in some cases, will ask you to come in person to a secured area to do a live in-person audition. But self-tapes are here to stay, and luckily I've been able to adapt to them pretty quickly.
And your own editing too.
Right. I have my wife, who's an amazing editor, and she has certainly helped me with making them very polished, very professional looking. So.
Oh, bless her. Peggy, yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know I could learn some tips from Peggy myself. Wow, of all the charities that you could choose from, which one would you choose to advocate for and why?
Hmm. There are, God, at least three that we have been a part of. It is for homelessness and equal housing opportunities for people, um, feeding the homeless, and also civil justice and education. These are things that are important to us.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And there's so many veterans out there that are homeless, and I wish people would support them also. Every human being has the right for shelter, food, water, you know.
Correct.
So I agree with you. And actually, a lady I interviewed came up with if she ever won the lottery, she'd buy like a big garage, and then
Hmm.
and have little, and then on the first floor she'd have like little houses, like box houses, just somewhere for them to sleep. And then the second floor, there's be where there'd be catering. And then the third floor, the toiletries and wardrobe, and you know, just clothes and stuff like that. So she came up with that
Yeah,
amazing
that's interesting. Is
idea.
Yeah, we thought about that as well. This idea of buying a parking garage and turning it into
Yes,
an encampment for homeless, that they could have some shelter,
yes,
some facilities, and um, security, and
yes.
also having some. That's great. I didn't think about dividing it up into floors, though. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'd say I'd have the bathroom at the bottom personally, but there you go. I don't think I'd want the bathroom above the food.
Yeah, a couple of years,
I'm
yeah.
oversleeping.
No,
Yes,
yeah, I think it should be on every floor. They should be available.
it's true.
Um, but I hadn't thought about the food part. That's great. There should be something where the people can grab food if they need food right away. But certainly, I
Yes.
think just the idea of the shelter, and then security. I'm not sure how that would work if it's just patrol, people just walk through, making sure everyone felt safe, there was no issues,
Yeah.
and that could be that, as opposed to just brute force rule that might be the case on the street, having some
Yes.
sense that they can go there and feel safe.
Especially right now in the winter, you know,
Yeah,
so they don't freeze to death somewhere, you know.
exactly.
They've got the right to live too, even
Exactly.
though
And
people.
I often, it also, off because I've been in California so long, Southern California, I often forget that, this is um, a favorite spot for people if they
Hmm.
are homeless because of the weather. And there's certainly homeless people in Wisconsin or Milwaukee
Yes.
that are out in the harsh elements. I mean,
Yes.
the poor people in Kentucky, I'm sure had to deal with this as well, that were homeless. So certainly it is. It's not. It certainly needs a warmth and security.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people actually do. So, you know, there's a lot of people caring. It's just, you know, I think unity is very powerful. And when people come together to help one another, that's when we make a huge impact on people's lives. It just has to be consistent. That's all.
Yes.
Yes, so thank you so much for answering that. How do you feel about what has transpired since COVID-19?
I, I, it's impacted me personally. Family members, friends, um, acquaintances I've known have not only suffered COVID but also passed away from it.
Right.
Um, so it's been really
Sorry.
heart wrenching for me. Uh, I'm thankful that, and once I'm really thankful that we have something that can help us, strategies, a vaccine that's safe,
Right.
but also saddened that there's a misinformation campaign that people don't understand about the vaccine. And um, I don't knock people that have any legitimate objections or need to have health issues that they won't allow them to take it. But yeah, I just feel sad that we are in a point where the discourse is uh, so harsh and vitriolic that we can't even agree on what's true and what isn't true. And that's a big part of the problem.
And the big part of the problem is because politics took over the science when they should have let science take the lead.
Hmm.
You know, got
Yeah.
one. leader
Yeah.
saying don't take it, another leader saying yes do. So
That's a good point. I mean, perhaps you're very right on that, Sam. That because it seems politicians latched on to the direction initially, the wrong direction,
right.
and it's forever entwined because of that, as opposed to handing it off to science, saying this is what the scientist says. A politician jumps in and says this is what you should do or not do.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to be political or mention any names, but
Yes.
we all know who it is, don't we?
Yes. For so long now, I've been saying, I want to, do my research and see what happens. And there's not enough information. And the truth is, actually, there's more information about this vaccine than any other vaccine. Like there's no one has had to take as much of a vaccine as this one. So there is certainly all the data, more data than any other vaccine has been collected for the COVID vaccine.
Thank you so much, Merrick. I'm glad you shared your thoughts. Is there any part that you have played in where you see your own persona or personality, both, that you could really identify with that role and it helped you through the script?
It's that's a great question. I think one thing I always profess about my acting and about acting in general, good acting, is that a good actor understands that every role that you take on, you're supposed to bring out the things within yourself that are in this role. So I played a villainous mob boss.
Oh wow!
And I'm not a villainous person, but there's certain emotions and things about that character that are deep within me that I was able to bring out, and that's about being honest and genuinely you. So every role should have some personal connection to you in some way. You should be able, as a good actor, connect with every role that you work on, because if you're not connecting and bringing something from within you out in that role, then more than likely it's not going to come across well, or people aren't really going to connect with you and your character and your performance. There are certain roles I've taken on that I think are easy for me to get into. I'm trying to think of some certain ones that I could say are just, I think on the role that I play on All American, I play a father that is very, he's very close to his daughter and wants the best from her, is very loving. But also he's sort of snobby, but he still has this humanity about being a loving father. And I certainly connected with that part of that role and was able to, going through tough life decisions with your child, certainly things that I do as a father. And I was really able to bring a lot of that to the role. So that was one of the ones that were easy for me to get involved with and into, because a lot of that guy is already here for me every day.
I know you have to bring a bit of your own personality and reactions, how you would react in that situation. Is there anyone that you found most difficult or heart-wrenching?
It's hard to say if it's difficult. I think I've certainly auditioned for roles that I'm like, this is not me. If it's like a certain type of serial killer or something like that was really way out there, that would be difficult for me.
Yes.
But even like I said, I played a mob boss in this movie, an independent movie, and I killed people. I was a really bad guy. But it was one of those things where, because I'm not one to get angry or be on a short fuse or lose my temper or really physically lash out. Everyone has that capability in them. They just don't let it out. Right. And so that role, I was able to dig deep and find that in me and bring that out into the role. So I'm not like that guy, but that was genuinely me being angry, yelling at people, pointing guns at people. It's just me. So it wasn't like me, but it's there.
It's there. It is in all of us, human emotions.
Yeah. How can you play something that's not you at all? And it's like, well, there's where you're starting your first mistake, is that you're assuming that this character has nothing about you at all, even though they're mean. This is the human condition, the human experience. And simply because we don't show it, it is not obvious to people, even obvious to us,
Right.
doesn't know it mean it's not there, that it's not something more deep within that we just tuck away because we don't have any use for it or we choose not to use it. But it's there. And people, the easier that you're able to find that within yourself, those aspects about yourself, those emotions that you don't express hardly at all or ever, you think, the easier it will be for you to connect as an actor to a role that's generally not yourself.
That's an amazing answer, and that's why I like to interview actors, artists, authors, directors, so I can show the audience of people how we are familiar yet uniquely different, and we're all human beings. And just because you're playing a role, it doesn't mean you are that role.
Correct.
You know, you're
Correct.
just
And just because that
talented.
role isn't written the way you are normally, it doesn't mean that you can't play that role. It
Yeah,
just means you got
exactly.
to work to find that part of that role that's deep within you to bring out. That's all.
I know it's a hard industry, and you're all very hardworking, and I have a lot of respect for all of you. Just so you know that. So how
Mhm.
has music influenced your life, and would you like to share the music that you love?
Um, well, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, originally. So, if you're ready for the story, I grew up in a household where my parents played the Temptations, they played the OJs, Four Tops, the Spinners, hardcore R&B music. Then, when I became a teenager, I got into other types of music. So it was, it was a lot of what was then called rap is more hip hop
Yeah.
now, but also alternative music. And because of the time, I grew up in a teenager during the '80s, where the video shows are
Me
out,
too.
music videos are out. Yeah, so I got into a lot of different things, not just Michael Jackson, and not just Lionel Richie, and not just Earth, Wind, and Fire, but also like Duran Duran or New
My
Order,
favorite.
or yeah, exactly. So that kind of opened me up to a
Mm,
lot of different uh, types of music that I didn't think I would go into.
right.
Um, but yeah, those have been big parts of my life. Uh, Growing up is connecting with music. That's also a spiritual connection for me too, because
Hmm.
it kind of allows your emotions and your feelings and your focus to, I want us to be at a different vibration, so that you're in this different mode when you're listening to certain types of music. And it's a great tool that I use still today.
It is, and it brings memories.
Hmm.
Music and laughter can change the mood of a room, and I say that, a few times in my interviews because it's so true, and that's why I asked the question, because there isn't anyone in life whether I don't think there's anyone that could say they don't like music, but if they do, if I've ever heard that, which I haven't, um, there's a memory.
Yeah,
There's a memory to a family member, to a
right.
moment, and it's soulful. So
Yes.
thank you very much for answering that. And I love your taste in music, especially when you said Duran Duran. I was like, oh!
Yeah.
I used to have Simon Le Bon all over my wall when I was 14.
Yeah.
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 But I was 14 though, yes.
Yes.
He married a very beautiful lady, Yasmin, and I was like, and but yeah, great band. I love the 80s and new wave, and I've got my Suri, and I'll go, not my Suri, I'll go, Alexa, play this, Alexa, play that. And I'm boss of the Alexa. It's awesome. My son doesn't get much time in it. This is a question for you, Merrick. Is there anything that no one has asked you in an interview that you would have liked them to ask you?
Hmm.
Walked away and said,
Um,
"You should ask me
yeah, that's a good question. Is there anything that no one's asked me that I would have liked them to ask me? Uh, God, I think it might be, um, what was, what moment have I ever had on set where I was just totally overwhelmed? I don't think I've had that question.
that." Well, Merrick,
Oh,
what
really?
moment? What moment on set where you were totally overwhelmed?
Well. Okay. So I did have only one until very recently, but it's right now it's two. So the first one was I did a role on the show Scandal. It's a small
Mm,
role, but it was. I was very early in my career acting. I started late, and got a role as a lobbyist on a show Scandal. It was a scene with Kerry Washington and Lisa Kudrow and Darby
Oh,
Stanfield. Um, so it was just me trying to be my coolest,
yeah.
cool because it's Kerry Washington. Uh, so and it's in character. It was just me letting that be and trying not to lose it that I'm sitting across from Lisa Kudrow and Kerry Washington during the scene. um,
Trying to be
but at one
cool.
point, I was in my mode of being cool, and Kerry Washington out of nowhere breaks this moment aside. She says, Merrick, you're so smooth. And like everything stopped. You could hear a pin drop. Hamina, hamina, hamina. And
Sorry for laughing.
and Darby Stansfield breaks it. Says, okay, Merrick, don't let it go to your head though. And I was like, already there, and everyone busted out laughing on
Too
the cast.
late.
Exactly, too late. That
That's
was it.
amazing. It is though.
And the and the second one happened a few months ago. I did an episode of the show 911,
Oh
and
yes, that's
the
right.
first scene I shot, unbeknownst to me, when I first booked it, was with Don Lewis. So I'm got this intense scene with Angela Bassett and Don Lewis. Both are female icons in the black community, let alone the black acting communities. And these are sort of the goddesses of film and screen here. And I'm supposedly yelling at them, I think, and then I was just sort of entranced by the fact that I'm standing in front of these two wonderful, gifted, powerful actresses, and
Right.
and struggle and trying to hold my own with them in my intensity. And the director comes and says, I need you to be angrier with them. I'm thinking, angry? It's like be angrier, be vicious to Angela Bassett and Don, those two women who I admire and adore. And so that was like one of those moments where I was like overwhelmed. But I did get through that well, and actually had a great time working with them both. Don Lewis and I still stay in touch today. She's a wonderful actress, and
Oh,
and Angela Bassett was also amazing and sweet and um, very personable and petite, and not, she's one of those women that people that she plays these characters that can be super strong and powerful and
right.
sometimes intimidating, but in person she's a very um,
Calm.
approachable person. Yes.
Oh,
Uh,
I want to interview her too.
yeah. Absolutely.
Is there
I think
someone you admire or look up to?
I really got a great fondness for a lot of the directors that I've worked with over the years. I mean, Michael Brueggemeyer is the director
Mm.
of those two films, The Fatal Air and Just a Man, that we're still dear friends to this day. Are fantastic. David Dawson, also a wonderful director, a friend of mine. And Neil Halford, also fantastic. Um, and also there's a gentleman named Sheldon Candace who is a protege of John Singleton, who directed me in an episode of Rebel, which starred Danielle Monet Truitt, and she's now a series regular on Law and Order.
Yes.
Yes, in New York. So I have these connections, and this is an example of that one little project you work on. You meet some people, your friends, and you stay in touch, and we
Hmm.
also communicate and support each other, and
Yeah.
that's building a community. And that's what's really important, is not just your friends and family and fellow acting classmates, but also just people that you might work with that you can reach out to, and when they're doing something wonderful, show support. When you feel like they might need some help with something, offer your help. I mean, these are parts of growing in this industry and growing a career, is this sense of community, unity, like you like to say.
Yes.
It all ends together.
Well, it is, and supporting each other, like
Yes,
Kim Estes, where I met you and your
yes,
beautiful wife at the charity event that Meredith Thomas did,
yes.
and now you're sitting here in front of me, honouring me with your time for my interview, and I'm really grateful to you and Peggy for giving your time to me, and
Absolutely.
your information, your IMDb, and your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. if anybody wants to follow Merrick on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, he's on there. I'm not sure if you have a TikTok because I don't have one. Do you have a TikTok?
I don't have a TikTok. It sounds so overwhelming for me to try to come up with dances and whatever they do, the poppy voice act. It just seems exhausting, so I don't for a TikTok.
I don't have a TikTok either. I've got.
Oh my God.
Too much. It is. So Merrick, thank you so much, and I really hope Peggy and you keep in touch, and I'll be calling her for some tips and advice because
Fantastic.
you two are very experienced in this, and it was an honor to meet you both. You're lovely people, and I wanted to say thank you very much for attending on Chatbox with Sam.
Well, thank you for having me on. My pleasure.
Would you like to say something to the viewers before we leave?
I would say to, as my wife enters, find someone that supports and loves you, and but also try to let go of your fear. That's one thing that holds so many people back is this sense of fear, and fear is really this idea of something that is really unknown, and try to focus and channel that anxiety, that energy towards gratefulness. Be appreciative of and grateful for what you have, what you've experienced in your life that have been wonderful for you, and realize that whatever obstacle you think may be in your way, you've come this far. You will certainly go further, and realize that this is a time for you to really share and be full of love and community.
That's amazing, inspirational words, Merrick. Thank you so much for attending Chatbox with Sam.
You're welcome.
And I hope
and
the viewers
my wife Peggy may have a couple words as well.
Yes, Peggy May.
Bring me in here. Hi.
Hi. Hello. And I'd like the viewers to know that this is Peggy McCartha. This is Merrick's beautiful wife. She's a lovely person, and she also has her own show. And you can follow her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And she's an amazing photographer. So follow her too. And headshots by Peggy. Okay. Would you like to say anything to the viewers, Peggy?
I wasn't listening in on your conversation, so I just heard Peggy and I came down. I'm glad that we met you, Samantha, and it's been fun getting to know you. And thanks for having us on the show.
Thank you so much, and I will gladly appreciate advice in the future if you ever want to give me some. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, both of you. And keep in touch.
You as well. Thanks again.
Keep
Absolutely.
in touch.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night,
Bye-bye.
darlings. Thank you.